Here's a six-figure job that didn't exist a year ago. Prompt engineer. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with stories about current events and trending topics. This is lesson number 645, so that means JR has uploaded the full transcript, exercises, and all the lesson resources to plainenglish.com/645. Here's what we're talking about on today's story. It's been about 15 months since ChatGPT burst onto the scene, and in that time, many individuals have worked generative AI into their lives for fun and to work more efficiently. But companies are working ChatGPT and other language models into their processes, and that means there's a new job out there. It's called the prompt engineer. And a prompt engineer is someone who knows how to ask language models a question and get a useful answer. This may sound simple, but in fact, there's an art and a science to generating useful responses from AI language models. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you what it means to scratch the surface of a topic. Ready? Let's dive in. You've probably heard that artificial intelligence and large language models like ChatGPT are disrupting the business world. Certainly, individuals in businesses use ChatGPT to simplify their lives at work. But many businesses are using these models in a much more advanced way. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, allows companies to connect directly to the underlying GPT model. That way, they can use GPT directly with their own data, their own documents, and their own software, all without opening a ChatGPT window. But this doesn't happen automatically. Someone still has to analyze the business needs, analyze the business data, make the connections, and make it all work with the model. And that is the job of a prompt engineer. A prompt is the set of instructions you give a language model. And a prompt engineer is a person who is the glue that connects the company and the language model. It's that person's job to program instructions into GPT that are most likely to get the best response. Most prompt engineers have to use a little bit of coding, but some prompt engineers can get away with using just English. The job requires an analytical mind, knowledge about how language models work, an ability to understand a business's objectives, and a lot of patience. Let's look at a few things a prompt engineer might do. Imagine there's a company full of financial analysts who need to read the financial disclosure forms that public companies file. These documents are large and dense. An AI model can help digest them. So a single analyst might open ChatGPT, paste the document into the model, and ask questions about it. But this is inefficient. Not every company employee is going to be good at using ChatGPT. It's better, instead, for a prompt engineer to write the exact questions and prompts so that other employees can get the best answers from the model. And it's even better if the prompt engineer can make a nice user interface. That way, employees can simply paste a link, click a button, and the model works in the background, all thanks to the work that the prompt engineer did. But now imagine those financial analysts have to do specific analyses on these documents. They can open a private company library full of prompts that can help them do analyses. The prompts have been developed, tested, and saved by a prompt engineer so that each analyst doesn't have to think of a prompt and then test it in the moment. This is just scratching the surface of what prompt engineers do. They also draw on a variety of research-based techniques when they create prompts for the model. These techniques improve the accuracy of the language model responses. Here are a few of them. One is called chain of thought. Chain of thought breaks complex problems down into their component parts. If you ask GPT to do a complex analysis all in one paragraph, you might not get the right answer. But a skilled prompt engineer can break a complex request up into component parts, walk GPT through the logic to solve the problem, and ask the model to solve the problem in steps rather than all at once. This technique has been shown to improve the accuracy of GPT responses. Another technique is to have GPT do the same thing multiple times and then choose the best outcome. Here's an example with translation. I asked ChatGPT to translate a phrase from a recent plain English story into Spanish. The sentence was, "A big, stinking pile of trash." Sometimes ChatGPT translated stinking as maloliente. Other times, apestoso. Both are acceptable, but they're not exactly the same. So how can I know which one I should choose? A prompt engineer could ask GPT to translate that word 5 times and then analyze its 5 different translations. It could then ask GPT to select the winner, to identify the translation that most often appears in its 5 previous attempts. This can help a business get more consistent results from a model. Here's one more technique. A prompt engineer can train a model to identify patterns that are likely to appear in the data. This is called few-shot prompting. This technique demonstrates logic to the model with sample or nonsense data. The model can then use the same logical patterns to answer questions about a business's data. Many ChatGPT users have found that the model can sometimes produce offensive or biased content. So a good prompt engineer can put guardrails around responses to protect against inappropriate responses. I could go on and on. Prompting language models is an emerging discipline. And if you're skilled at it, you can make good money. I searched LinkedIn and other job sites for prompt engineer jobs. Experienced candidates with coding knowledge can earn $200,000 or more at tech companies. But even non-technology companies need these skills, and those jobs still offer six-figure salaries. So here's the question: will GPT ever get so good that prompt engineering is obsolete? Anything is possible, but for now, the prompt engineer is the critical link between a company's humans and its models. If you've ever used ChatGPT and thought, this is nice, this is fun, but I can't use it, or if you thought, this is just a toy, then you need a prompt engineer. The prompt engineer's job is to make it useful. I've spent hours just re-entering prompts and data and trying to get things right here to make myself more efficient at plain English. And then I discovered some of these prompt engineering techniques. They've been developed and tested by researchers in the field, published in papers, and by applying these techniques, I'm able to solve problems that I could never get GPT to solve before. And now I can. So if you've ever been on the web and seen software or products that say they use AI to help you do X, well, a prompt engineer is probably behind that. It's really amazing. If I didn't already have a great job here at Plain English, I might want to become a prompt engineer. Think about it. Scratch the surface. This is an English idiom, and it means to explore only a small part of a larger topic. You might know from listening that I'm interested in new technologies, and I'm interested in large language models like GPT, which is behind ChatGPT. I'm primarily interested in learning how to use them to make my business better and more efficient so that I can provide even better service to all of you in the Plain English audience. I've done some research. I've done some reading. I've experimented with some things. I've learned some code. I've worked with a lot of no-code apps. But who are we kidding? I'm not a GPT or AI expert. I've just scratched the surface of what these models can do. I've just scratched the surface. That means all my reading, all my learning, all my experimenting, all my trial and error, it only represents a small part of this much, much bigger topic. There's a lot I don't know, and I'll never know it all. I know a lot, but I've only scratched the surface. I've only explored a small percentage of this bigger topic. I've been living in Mexico for a year, actually about 16 months. I've tried to sample as much Mexican food as I can here, within the bounds of my budget and my diet. But I've only scratched the surface. There's so much food from all the different regions. I've tried a lot of new food, but if you add it all up, it's still only a small percentage of the country's rich cuisine. I've only scratched the surface. Black holes are one of the mysteries of the universe. Back in 2019, scientists released the first image of a black hole. But for all astronomers know, they admit that we've only scratched the surface of black holes. They've only learned and understood a small amount of what there is to know about them. There was a big scandal in Brazil, actually all of Latin America, called the car wash scandal. In 2014, Brazilian police were investigating a car wash in the capital, Brasilia. They suspected that the car wash was being used to launder money. They were right. It was being used to launder money. But they had only scratched the surface of what would become a continent-wide corruption scandal. They had only scratched the surface because by investigating that one little car wash, they, at that point, only understood a small part of a much bigger pattern of criminal and corrupt activity. I'm always looking out for you guys, and I want you to succeed in English. So here's a tip on how to sound really smart in English. Explain something really complicated to someone. Explain something you know a lot about. And right when the other person gives you a confused look, just say, "Of course, we've only scratched the surface of this topic." That's all for today. Now listen, if you've only ever experienced plain English by listening to the audio lessons, then you've only scratched the surface of what's possible with plain English. At plainenglish.com, with the free and the plus memberships, you can practice what you learn, get feedback, join a live conversation call, watch step-by-step video lessons, practice your pronunciation, practice your writing, take quizzes, take courses. We even have a course about ChatGPT. So if all you do, and it's free, so if all you do is listen, that's great. It's a great step. But just realize you've only scratched the surface of what's possible with plain English. So if you've not yet been to our website, this is your excuse. This is your reason. Go to plainenglish.com/join, JOIN, and take a look at the membership options we have there. There's a free membership that you can start with. It includes the transcripts, review quizzes, ChatGPT course, and a few more free goodies. So check it out, plainenglish.com/join, JOIN. We'll be back here on Monday with a new story. See you then.